So many early stage companies get up because they want to talk about a big TAM. You're $500,000 in revenue and you want to talk about your $10 billion TAM. I want to talk about your $25 million target market.
Mike and Dave Wessinger, two brothers from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and what they built will change how you think about entrepreneurship in this country forever. They built PointClickCare to 27,000 long-term care providers, 2,800 hospitals on every US healthcare plan, a $5 billion company without ever leaving home. But it didn't come easy. It started with a handshake between brothers during a snowstorm in 1997. They bootstrapped with friends and family's money, and for 4 years they almost died trying to make payroll.
But every 2 weeks, we almost close the doors. I get 36 consecutive payrolls. I remember Dave's wife would come in, bring 2 kids with him. They would have a picnic dinner at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night because they weren't going to see him till Tuesday. There was no, work-life balance. Like, I don't even know what the that means in startup. Like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's like work.
It was like, what just happened? I thought you guys were going to kill each other. It's like, no, it's just another day.
And somehow, they were having the most fun of their lives.
Every day I woke up, the first thing I want to do is race my off into the office. So invigorating.
Then they cracked the code. They walked into a dated, low-tech industry and built the disciplined playbook that turned it into a $5 billion empire. And in this episode, they're going to walk you through exactly how they did it. What is that bowling pin strategy?
The first 10% market share in every state was like hand-to-hand combat, like crawling through a ditch with a knife in your teeth, taking them down one at a time, like as hard got.
Are you going to win 80% of the deals in that target market? Well, I think we're going to win 10. Then redo the plan.
No fly zone.
But it nearly broke them.
It for sure took years off my life. There's people half my age that have seen more of the world than me.
But the real question is, in 2026, knowing everything you know now, if you were going to start a new business today from scratch, would you build it from Canada or would you go to the US? Welcome to the True North podcast. Our goal is to tell the real stories, not the polished versions for social media. The failures, the near-death moments, the comebacks, raw, unfiltered, and real. To inspire that next generation and motivate our best founders to build right here. We need less people working for the big telecoms or grocery chains, less people depending on the government, less people complaining, and more people building. But Canadians need to see that it's possible first. Like a kid watching Sidney Crosby win gold, then going out in his backyard and skating until it gets dark. That's what this show is. That's the True North Pod. But quick ask before we dive in. If you're not subscribed, hit that button right now. Every subscriber helps us tell more Canadian stories and prove to the next generation that building world-class companies here is possible. So if you believe in a more ambitious Canada, if you think we need more builders, subscribe. You're a part of moving this country forward. Mike and Dave, welcome to the True North Pod. Let's go. I'm so pumped to get into your story today. It's absolutely insane. Like, it could be a Netflix special. And there's so many things I'm looking forward to talking to you about today. Building a $1 billion business as brothers, the blizzard of 1997, the 4 years you almost died as a business trying to make payroll, the grind and what's required to build something of this size, how you brought technology to an old, dated, dusty industry in a really tactical way, AI and where this goes next. But the first thing I want to talk to you both about today is entrepreneurship in Canada and the importance of it. Because there's two competing things happening at the exact same time. And I believe it's up to us as Canadians to choose which path we actually take. And on the one side, the negativity, it's real, and we have to fucking face that head on. It's almost like there's a sentiment of, okay, let's not mention it. And if you mention it, it's unpatriotic, when I think it's the opposite thing. Call out the problem and address it. And the CFIB just reported 6 straight quarters of more small businesses closing than opening in this country. That hasn't happened outside of COVID. But on the other side, there's another story Canadians aren't hearing at all. There are Canadian businesses sitting in the top 1% of the highest performing private companies in the world, and Canadians have zero idea that they actually exist. And that's what this pod is about. We're trying to solve that problem and tell these stories. And you two, and what you built, is one of those unknown Canadian stories. You both built PointClickCare to a $5 billion company, 27,000 long-term care providers, 2,800 hospitals on every major US health plan, and you built it from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and you never left. So I want to ask you both this to kick things off today. In 2026, knowing everything you know now, if you were going to start a new business today from scratch, would you build it from Canada or would you go to the US?
Ooh, profound. I know what I would do, but let the elder go first.
You know, I spend an awful lot of time convincing founders, you know, through my role, the C100 and me connected with a lot of the startup and scale-up community. I've been trying to convince them that they have the ability to build a world category leading company out of Canada. But the reality is you need to be committed, you need to be patriotic, and there are some real challenges. What we have going for us is we have proximity to the world's largest market. We have the most educated workforce on the planet. We have great immigration policy, not executed the right way, but we have great immigration policy. And you know, we've got great Canadian sensibilities. We build durable businesses. So the reality is, for now, I would convince founders or encourage them to stay, because we're going to try and fight the good fight to try and change and take back our country to create an environment where we're more competitive than our competitive environments like the U.S. And so would it be easier to build a company like ours in the U.S.? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Do I think you can do it in Canada? Yes. Do I think you should do it in Canada and be patriotic? Yes. But we have to get over some of the hurdles that we need to in order to create a sustainable Canadian tech ecosystem and stop driving our best talent and our best companies out of the country.
And if you had to pick, like you had to make the choice, like today, you got to pick left or right, what are you picking?
I want to live here. So yeah, I'm going to stay here. I'd build it here.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
Gosh, Mike's a commercial right there. You can tell what he spends his time doing, and he clearly wants to create a better path for Canadian entrepreneurs. There's no question about it. And he's left me to kind of run the business these last few years, and he's been the one fighting a good fight to try to change dynamics that allow us to do all the things that we didn't have access to when we were young, growing our business. And so I was just on a panel this morning, and I heard a young woman talk about the fact that a number of the pieces we didn't have in place are starting to show up for her. And I couldn't be more happy, because I know some that came from the work Mike's doing, and some, even you go to Balsillie and the things that he's obviously put back into. So lots of us are pushing back into. I think it would be a shame to go. I do think it's an easier path. I think Mike's right. They celebrate entrepreneurism differently there than we do here. Very humble, probably to a fault. And so I think you have the best chance of success there. But we're proud Canadians. We love lifestyle. We love supporting the community. It's an important place to grow and develop. And Mike's right. We have great talent here. And so shame on us if we can't make it work. So I would say 99 times out of 100, I would do it here. Yeah, absolutely.
I want you both to take me back to the big day. It's in Mississauga, February 12th, 1997, and there's a blizzard. The 401 is shut down. Mike, you're 27 at the time, broke, selling this software to nursing homes. It doesn't really work. I want you guys to go back and forth and tell that story. And Mike, maybe we start.
First of all, Mike wasn't broke, by the way. I don't know who told you that. But he was driving the Sirocco. He was the richest boy in the family. It's like, holy dude, we want that sales job. So it wasn't, this guy was doing just fine.
Okay, amazing. So I want to go back and forth with that story. Maybe Mike, we start with you. Paint me a picture of that day before Dave showed up.
Yeah, this is my recollection. Dave shows up and he can't make it to his office, so he's working out of, my office, probably the size of this room, right? There's, they got a few tables. We did some computer training in there. A one-man show. Anyways, after, midway through the afternoon, Dave goes, I could see myself working here. I go, what do you mean, actually working here, working together? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, really? And I thought about it. I'm like, wow, you got a brand new baby and another one coming. I'm like, how's that going to work out? I'm like, let me go check the ledger book. Anyways, I flipped through the ledger book and come back. And I'm like, all right, well, how much you make today? Whatever he told me, it wasn't very much. I'm going to go, all right, I can bring you on. I can pay you what you're getting paid today. But if you're not carrying your weight 3 months, I got to fire you. And he goes, yeah, all right, done. I go, cool, cut you in for partner. I go, all right, I get a call. You got to call your wife. And hey, by the way. And then I'm like, oh, boy. And then, I don't know, you should tell this part of the story.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
Yeah, it was, that's exactly how I went down. I remember those words, there wasn't a single change to exactly what he said. I remember it to this day. And there's things you forget after 30 years. That's not one of them. And I do remember going, F it, let's do it. So I obviously had, some sort of death wish, I guess, because I actually had a real job. I did have a kid in diapers at home. I did have another one on the way. We just moved into a townhouse up in Brampton, and the commute was a little better than the hour and a half commute I had into Toronto. So that felt good too. And I knew we could actually do things. And, Mike thought about changing the world, and I'm like, one patient at a time, right? So it was really exciting and compelling to join him and go on this journey together, which we'd kind of talked a little bit about, but it became really real at that moment. And then to Mike's point, I picked up the phone. I actually didn't seek any counsel from my wife. She had no idea this was coming. And I pick up the phone, and I don't know, it's like some Star Trek phone back then. And I'm like, hey, guess what? She goes, oh, what? I'm like, well, I decided to join Brother Mike. And she goes, oh, fuck, what does that mean? I'm like, well, that means I'm giving up a real job, but it's okay. You can pay me for 3 months. We're good. She goes, well, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, well, we'll just move back in with Mom, I guess. And she's like, well, it better fucking work out. That was it. We're like, let's go. And we charged forward, and that was the beginning of the end.
So that was the beginning. That was the handshake from 1997, right? You spent 3 years selling that software before you actually decided to build your own company and go all in on that. So I have something for both of you from those early days. What is this?
Oh my God, a floppy disk. Wow. So we were reselling, actually at that time, 2 different companies.
Actually, 3.5 inch hard disk, right? But that's fine. Floppy's close.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Details. Who knows? It's too long ago. So we were selling two companies' products, one on the sort of the human capital management side, the other one the electronic health record side. And then every time I'd sell a deal, Dave would have, he or someone would go on and put in, at the time, a Novell network, put in probably the first tech that they ever had. But we realized that there's some other products they needed. So we started to dabble in with building these little point solutions around the stuff we were selling. That was one of them. We had another infection control product that we built along with that. And so that was sort of our first, hey, you know what? We don't control the code with these other companies. And so anytime the customers push back, we're like, look, we don't control the code. Go to the developer and they go like, F you, just sell more of it. And we're like, all right, just sort of between a rock and a hard place. Like, yeah, I can't sell more of it unless they make it better. Like, no, you just need to sell more of it. And the customer's like, make it better. I'm like, I don't have any control over that. We started building our own stuff. We were like, hey, we got to focus on customer delight. And when they tell us it's we make it better. And when they tell us it's good, like we get happy, we sell more of it. And so I think that, having success with a couple of very small point solutions is probably what gave us the confidence to, in late 99 to go, we could do this on a bigger scale. Why don't we go build the platform? So that's how that all got started. I think that was the thing that gave us the confidence that we could build our own company with our own product and not just be distributors and, resellers.
Okay. And Dave, when you see this, because you're the engineer behind this thing, what goes to your mind when you see that picture?
Grind. Like those days were super grinding. I know people think, they're grinding, but the stuff we used to do and the hours we used to work to try to get this stuff out and move. And you talk about days where I actually remember we had this conversation with a few engineers, like, why don't we work 18-hour days? We're like, yeah, that's a great idea. So we kind of put some bunkies in the office and we thought we'd kind of work till midnight and get back in at 6 a.m. every day. And literally by the time we got to 3 weeks in, we probably wrote a line of code a week. I was like, that shit's not working. And so, but it's just a sense of like, we were trying to move that fast and that hard. And so, this stuff reasonably successful, but at the beginning of, as Mike said, we could do it. The other thing that comes to mind when I see it is I'm actually a developer. Like I suck. And the best thing I got that happened early on was I hired somebody And I think it was on this product, and we were using Delphi at the time. You probably don't remember, but anyways, I'm like, I gave him his task Monday morning, and he goes away. I'm like, oh, this is great. I got somebody who can do this job. This is fucking amazing. Comes back an hour later. I'm like, oh, I hired a fucking bumbling idiot. And I'm like, okay, I go through it again. And he goes, I'm like, so what do you not understand? He goes, oh, I got it. It's done. I thought that would take you a fucking week. Like, clearly I'm destined for management. I need more of you. And so I remember recognizing we had really good people around us, and there's a lot of smart people that we could get for very affordable prices at the time. And that when I look back, it's like, gosh, those early days and getting the right people mattered a lot, and recognizing you could really complement your weaknesses with some pretty amazing people.
Okay, so you went from selling other people's software, now you're building your own product under Westcom. And I spoke with Angelo. Employee number...
Infamous sales guy.
Angelo. Unbelievable. And we're going to get to more of his stories later in the interview, trust me. But he asked me to show you this picture specifically. I don't know the story. I have no idea. Apparently this was your first trade show. And he said it was a nightmare. He said it was and he just asked me to tee you guys up and for you to tell the story of your first trade show in that picture.
Oh my God.
Holy
Did we end up on a cruise that night?
No,
Thing too?
no. This is the one we were in, the first American Healthcare Association one.
Oh God.
It was in.
God.
So here's how the story goes. It's in New Orleans. We get down there and we're cheap as shit. Like we could barely afford the plane tickets to get down there. So it's just
Boston?
What?
The Boston one?
No. This was in New Orleans.
The Boston one's even better.
So all we had was we flew down and we brought a monitor with us, and we had a rented table and a booth on the back. So we get there and we walk around and there's no carpet there. And we're like, hey, dude, it's like, where's our f***ing carpet? They're like, did you pay for the carpet? I'm like, no. Like, oh, shit. All right. So then what do? We jump in a cab and go around to find this magic carpet place. Put a magic carpet down, but it's like 4 inches short on either end. So it's just stupid looking carpet in the middle of a cement floor. And then we're like, all right. Then we go to plug in and we're like, hey, where's the power outlet? Did you guys pay for power? We're like, no. Like, oh, shit. I'm like, all right, let's just steal from someone next door. So Angelo goes, I've got this, right? What does he do? He runs in the back. He comes out with this big industrial cord. I'm like, where'd you get that? He goes, I got it out of the kitchen. He goes, don't eat the deviled eggs. Plugs it in, fired it up, and we're good to go. First trade show, done on a budget, almost for free.
Now, you incorporated as Westcom 2000. You shipped your first SaaS product within months, but then you spent the next 4 years struggling to make payroll, and it was a battle. Friends and family's money on the line. What I want to be able to tell the story of is what those years actually looked like. Like, how hard did you work? How close were you to actually closing the doors, and how you got through it?
But every 2 weeks, we almost close the doors. I mean, literally for... I get 36 consecutive payrolls. My job was, every day, beg, borrow, steal, figure out how we're going to make payroll. Because you think about it, the time was 2001 and you wanted to raise money. Imagine this story, right? Everyone just lost the money in the dot-com boom. Like, we're going to put healthcare records on the internet and people are going to pay us forever. Like, fuck you, don't let the door hit you in the ass in the head. There was no money, like nobody anywhere other than like, friend from hockey team, parents, aunt, uncle. They would write checks and they're blind. Now, you guys seem smart. You figure it out. I'm like, holy f***, you have no idea what you're investing in here. But anyhow, that was the only people that would give us money. So I know that Elon Musk thing, extreme hard work. I don't know if people really understand what that means. Like, I remember Dave's wife would come in, bring 2 kids with them. They would have a picnic dinner at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night because they weren't going to see him till Tuesday. Like, it was not leaving the office. You'd sleep when you could. You'd wake up stinky as and you just code again and work because we tried to get a release out by Tuesday. Like, it was working around the clock. There was no, work-life balance. Like, I don't even know what the that means in startup. Like, there is no such thing as work-life balance. There's like work. 25 years later, you get to, goof off. Like, there's a little bit of balance later, but there is no work-life balance. If you want to build a unicorn and build something, if you want to build a lifestyle business, do whatever you want. I don't give a shit. Have a nice, go watch your Netflix, go tour the world, whatever. We sacrificed all of that and worked around the clock. So when we talk about hard work, like, I remember there was one guy who actually had come from a regular job. He came by and 8 o'clock at night on his third day. He's like, everyone's still there. He's like, when do we go home? And everyone looked at him weird, like, what are you talking about? Like, I got a wife and kids. Like, when do we go home? I'm like, well, do you live close? Like, when are you going to be back? Like, we looked at him weird, like, I guess you can go home for a bit. Like, you need a shower? Like, I don't know, like do a sink shower like the rest of us. He'd be back at midnight. And I was thinking of coming tomorrow morning. We're like, oh, whatever. Okay.
But I give Mike a lot of credit because I do agree. He insulated us a lot from, he had to chase a lot of funds and worked his ass off to do that. And that's not an easy job. And if you haven't done that, spend a moment in those shoes and you recognize what it's like to be an entrepreneur and leading a business. And if you haven't, you're probably too well funded and you f***ed up. So, but you know, we, you know, for us, as Mike said, yeah, it was, I mean, those are long, hard days, but I remember those days, maybe time erodes memory, but every day I woke up, the first thing I want to do is race my ass off into the office to just keep moving the ball forward. It was such a fun time and it was scary as shit, but so invigorating to keep moving and solving and growing. And as I said, we kind of felt like Mike's got one thing covered. And I said that the way we work well together is, you know, if he's doing something, I don't give a shit. Like I got other things to work on. The ability for us to work together and take on left brain, right brain type stuff was very easy, in a perfect kind of brotherhood and trust that I could do the things knowing he's kind of keeping the business alive and I'm going to solve problems and move fast. And outside of, you know, one time where he got some capital and I spent it on a bunch of servers and he's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, oh, we need some servers. Oh, you're an idiot. I'm like, oh, sorry, brother. Yeah, a few things like that might happen.
Now, every person I talked to said something a little bit different. They said that a lot of the real work didn't actually happen in the office. It happened here.
Muddy Moose.
The Muddy Moose. The team got built at the Muddy Moose. The bond was forged over pints of beer. Take me there. What was the Muddy Moose and what was a typical Tuesday night like?
Tuesday night was like a Wednesday, like a Thursday, like a Friday, like a Saturday.
So you do the grind forever, and then maybe 8 o'clock or something like that, you finally get out of the like you're like just grinding all day long. And you finally get to throw back a few beers and you actually start to think strategically about the business and actually have a conversation where you're not chasing whatever it is, the next deliverable, the next sale, whatever it is, and you finally get to sit down and think further into the future. And it was after a few pints that some of the most valuable, important decisions that we ever made were made in that pub of all places, which I'm not even sure it even still exists. But
I don't know that it does, honestly. I probably shouldn't, now that I remember it. It was, you know, I think that was the interesting part. And Mike, I agree completely. Everybody went there. It was a culture, I hate to say, of like, you know, we worked hard and we played hard, and that happened to be the place where we got an opportunity to go and just relax a bit and really talk about the business and step away from the day to day and go, what are we doing here? And what's next?
Like when we were done, it wasn't, we went home after that. We went back to the office. People slept on boardroom tables, on the couch, underneath desks, woke up in the morning, shook it off, and kept going.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Unreal. During that time, did you guys ever look at each other and say, this isn't going to work? Or did you always have that confidence that like, yeah, it's just a matter of time?
I think I'll go first on that one. People ask me this, and generally I would say there was never a day I thought it wouldn't work out. I was always the optimist, like without question. But did we fight, you know, tooth and nail on fucking most things? Absolutely. You want to have a team meeting and have this like, and we go back and forth on some, you know, and I hate to say Mike was right more than half the time, let's say a lot of the time, because he was the guy making the promises and I had to fucking deliver, right? Well, it doesn't feel very good sometimes. And so, yeah, there's some fireworks in the office and we didn't agree on a bunch of stuff. But in the end, what's funny for the people around watching us go, we would just get up after and go, all right, let's go grab a beer. I was like, I thought you guys were going to kill each other. It's like, no, it's just another day. Like, and it was just purely vulnerable, getting at the right stuff and challenging some tough things, which the one I still tell today where I remember specifically Mike and I going at it, which was, dude, there's so much fucking work. Everything's going to start failing. I can't do it all. The team can't do it all. Mike's like, take in business, apologize later, or somebody else will, and we won't have a business. I remember that clear as day, and I'm like, you remember that day? God, I was, two big chains showed up the same day, and it was like, oh my God, my life's going to suck.
Well, the nice thing when you lead the company is if you're not burdened with the how to get it done or the actual doing of it, you can actually make the right decision. As I go, Dave, 100%. This is what needs to happen. And he goes, you know, fucking hard, that's going to be goddamn near impossible. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get all that. It's going to be hard for somebody, but you can't disagree. That's exactly what we need to do. And he'd be like, all right, I guess I got to go do it. I'm like, all right.
I love his greatest, and I actually am starting to lean into this a bit. His greatest advice for a CEO is like, don't burden yourself with the details. Like,
No, you'll if you are stuck with the how to get it done and that it's going to be hard, you'll actually change your decision based on how hard it's going to be. Like, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to do the right thing, and that means doing the hard thing, and go do the fucking hard thing. Because you know what? Most people will not do the hard thing, and that's what's going to allow you to beat them, right? Because most people will go, that's going to be hard. What's the easy way? All right, pick the easy way and great. Build something that is not durable and valuable and don't build a great business. Build something. There's a ton of mediocrity out there. Don't build something mediocre.
well, not that we're not mediocre. Like, we're super average people, right?
Now, those yelling matches, because I heard that a lot, that you guys would go at it and your team would be there and be like, what the is going on?
It's like a tennis.
But was there like a beauty to that where you guys aired it out and you weren't hiding behind the politeness of it and you landed on a
yes
real...
and no. It worked well for Dave and I. It did not work well for the team. So we actually had to fix it.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in a room, you can imagine some management meeting, and Dave and I go toe to toe, and that thing that's in the back of his throat, you can see it like hanging, dangling there as he's screaming at you, and then everyone else just shuts down, and they wait for the battle to be done, and then we go get a beer, and they're like, "What the was that all about?"
Yeah, I heard that a lot.
And then we started to realize that we can't do that. We can do that behind closed doors, but not in front of the team.
And that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah. But I think the absolute transparency, like I never doubted where Dave's intentions, where they were coming from, that they were pure intentions. We just, we disagreed on how we go about it. And I think, healthy between us, maybe not healthy with the team, but we always talked about the right stuff, and there was never being polite and not getting to the right topic.
I think in the end, the reality is it should have been a meeting with just Mike and I.
Sure.
It wasn't helpful to have the other team listen to that, but we knew the business inside out and backwards, top to bottom, and knew all the things to talk about and the things we needed to do. And we could bring him along after the meeting, but quite frankly, we needed that time. We needed to figure out we were the right people to talk about it. So there was a lot of magic in that, actually. And if it was just Mike convincing me to do the thing that I didn't want to do, even better. And so with others in the room, I could easily get defensive. One has to win, like brother competitiveness would definitely come out. And so, but I do think the time we spent together was by far the most valuable to drive the business forward.
I think there's something there about social aspect of things. And you're kind of like told in social media to sit behind your computer and get into Claude and build a business. But there was a real social aspect of your success. What's the message for like founders today and that importance of that social aspect? Do you think it's still important in 2026, or what do you?
It all depends on your business. I mean, it definitely mattered to us, to make those personal connections. I mean, it's such a tight vertical. Everybody knows everybody, and
Reputation matters.
Getting connected with them, and they can put a personality behind the software they're using and understand it. I mean, that was enormous for us. I mean, it definitely set us apart from our competitors who were much more traditional. They didn't get out much.
Risk averse.
Yep.
I think the young entrepreneur thing is what I don't think they recognize is companies are buying you. They're buying kind of, Mike. They're buying me. They're buying kind of, we believe in you. Yeah. And I think they don't recognize that being behind a desk is not helpful. You've got to be in market. You've got to be connecting, and they're buying your vision, buying kind of their belief that you're going to get them there. And that was kind of a big part of early days, is they had to believe in us.
Yeah, I mean, our early multi-billion-dollar revenue customers were banking on this small, they're in the U.S., there's a small company out of Mississauga that has a handful of people, and that is solving their Medicare, Medicaid, managed care issues. And then that takes them a long time to figure out, like, what? Is it the same in Canada? It's like, no, not even close. Like, oh, all right, well, whatever, you guys have figured it out. They weren't going to take a leap of faith on somebody they didn't trust, right? Yeah. So the more time we spent them in a social setting, understanding who we were and building those bridges made a huge difference for them to, basically bet their business on us. And we were their mission critical, their mission critical platform they needed to run on. And so without those personal connections, they weren't going to take that gamble.
Okay, and I've heard countless stories of killer employees that helped you build this thing. People that work day and night to help get this business to where it is. I probably have the nicknames wrong, but you have Alan the connector, Alex, who is like the network magician. Your brother Jeff, I think his nickname's the Clink. Is it the Clink?
The Lunk.
The Lunk.
Yeah.
The Lunk. So if I give you this picture, what goes through your mind when you see pictures and these people?
Holy
and what do they mean to you in the business?
Like, they're all old now. They look really young.
They're customers now.
Man alive.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know. I mean, there's, I look at all those folks and they, you talk about why were they here? Why did they kind of follow the dream? Why are they part of us? They just, we had a special relationship where we just cared about them and they cared about us and the business. And we kind of grew together like family. There's a culture aspect that I think before culture is culture that, Mike and I realized, and Mike for sure drove the culture side for us, that made it a great place to work, a great place to develop a career, and some phenomenal people that, as if you go to, and maybe there's an Angela story coming up, but, there are the people we hired initially weren't the best people. They were just the people we could afford, but they turned into amazing talent that are still with us today. And holy they mean a lot. They're pretty special people.
And Angela's one of those special people. I
Absolutely.
think he showed up to that first interview wearing shorts, right? So maybe you tell that wasn't in the plan, but maybe tell that.
Well, let me start because randomly I was playing adult hockey with Angelo on a team and another buddy of mine, the two of us were playing with him. We got to know him a little bit. And I had no idea that he was looking for a job and would never have a conversation with him about it. It's like, this guy is the last person I would hire. Lo and behold, I'm sitting at reception one day because that was my desk back in 97, I think is when he came on, right? And does an Angelo come through the door, shorts, t-shirt on his way to Florida. I'm like, what the f*** are you doing here? He goes, I'm here for a job. I'm talking to your brother, Mike.
Yeah, so I agreed. Another friend who was on the hockey team said, yeah, he's looking for a job. I'm like, what job? He goes, just talk to him. Anyways, I'm like, but you're in for an interview? He brought wearing shorts. Yeah, I'm going to Daytona right after here. My buddies are waiting in the car. I'm like, oh, thanks for dressing up. Hey, what job? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, okay. What do you think you could do? He said, well, I don't know, maybe sales. I'm like, oh, you got sales experience? No, none. I'm like, oh, all right. Where'd you go to school? University? Oh yeah, I went to Nipissing. How'd that go? It didn't really work out. College? Oh yeah, I went to Mohawk. How'd that work out? Didn't really work out. I'm like, holy what do you do now? He goes, well, I work at the beer store and at a gas station. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, where do you live? He goes, well, I kind of live in my car and on my buddy's couch right now. I'm like, holy I'm like, well, what makes you think you can sell? He goes, oh, when I'm with my buddies, I'm the hustler. I'm the guy who gets all this done. Take care of everything. I'm like, all right, well, that's the first good answer. And then the next one, I'm like, well, what are you going to cost me? And whatever he told me was again, almost for free. I'm like, well, you are not the guy that I need, but you're the guy I can afford. I'm like, when you get back from Florida, give me a call. We'll see if it works out. I didn't know he came from a long line of Greek hustlers that owned pawn shops and restaurants and all that stuff. But it turns out, yeah, I got a true believer who had all the raw material. He just needed to be crafted into the killer that he is today.
Yeah, and what did he end up? He told me he saved the business multiple times.
Fuck, Angelo.
Yeah. There was one.
Nice. Although we joke about him a lot. He turned into from a guy who worked at the beer store who wouldn't give up the job because he wasn't sure if this job would work out, to a guy that led us to, in a given year, over 100 million net new sales with a sales team of 200 people. Just a phenomenal growth story of somebody who was able to go from, single person trying to get his first deal to somebody leading a team and driving significant revenue into our business.
Both of you told me that there was a number of important books that you read that you really leveraged to help build.
Let me start with this story. This is the best part.
Okay.
I actually didn't read a fucking thing. The best part was Mike was my whatever kind of the version today of kind of what's that? I'm trying to think of that app that's out there that summarizes books. It'll come to me in a second. I use that too, but in the meantime, before that technology was available, I used Mike, and so he'd read fucking everything, probably a book a week, Mike. Yeah. And we can go through a handful that would be super helpful, and I'll let Mike share that. But he'd go through and read them, and I'm like, he'd share all his wisdom with me and kind of sum it up in what otherwise 5 or 10 minutes, because it's basically the first page usually matters. That's about as far as I would get. And so I got a lot of the intellect that Mike was able to glean from them, but yeah, lifelong learner, curious, driving into this stuff, which I think invariably is a key component to being a great CEO. So share some of the good ones.
Well, I have one here in particular. Because you guys both mentioned
the Bible.
This one, Crossing the Chasm.
I feel like we wrote it.
And before we talk through it, because I love to go through a bit of an exercise with both of you, sell this book to the founders watching today. And what's the one thing from Crossing the Chasm that was critical for both of you in building a $1 billion business?
So, well, I've probably coached 100 founders in the last 3 years. And I'm shocked when I ask them, have you read Jeffrey Moore? Have you read Crossing the Chasm or Inside the Tornado? I get it's like a 30-year-old book. It's as true today as it was 30 years ago. And they're like, well, what's so important about it? I'm like, first of all, I'm having a conversation with you about things like product market fit and target market and understanding whether you're trying to compete for gorilla, chimp, or monkey, or where you are you would let the visionaries, or like, there's a whole vocabulary that you can use when talking about strategically where the business goes next. Like, are we competing? Where are we, in the technology adoption life cycle? Are we competing to be the leader or the challenger? Like, and I think all of it, when I look at that book, for years before we did strategic planning, I reread the book and go, we already have the playbook. Like, this is where we are. Let's agree where we are, where we want to go next, and just follow it. And I remember when I finally got to meet Jeffrey Moore, I go, did it not unfold exactly the fucking way you said it would in your book? Exactly the way you said it would, it unfolded. And he's like, great, like, good for you. I was fanboying the guy, like, but there was like that. I think Crossing the Chasm into the Tornado is singularly the most important book. Like, that book alone, more than everything else I read, in order for us to help figure out how we were going to introduce a disruptive technology and go own a market. And I think it's as valid today. I mean, people read it today and they will recognize the names in there or the examples. But if you understand the principles and you get the vocabulary and you get your entire leadership team engaged with that, I still think it's as relevant today as it was 30 years ago.
I'll add to that. I think that helped us when we'd get into those, spittle type arguments, kind of going after each other. And it's like, and you kind of brought out okay, let's level set on the pattern, the framework, the thing. And that whole concept of inside the tornado, this is what we need to do now. This is where we are. It's like, you're right. God damn it, I fucking hate you. And so super helpful for that. The other one I would say that I liked, as we thought about differentiating, which I think is really important, is Blue Ocean. And that to me was, when we think about what we did, everyone goes, oh, you did SaaS. Actually, no, we didn't. We disrupted in a way that we showed up meaningfully different. SaaS happened to be the platform that allowed us to differentiate in 8-9 different categories that we chose to win against. I think that the same is true with this AI wave. It's not AI. It's what you're doing with AI that creates a differentiation that allows you to win. And so those two, I think, were super helpful. But to Mike's point, it became the language we could all talk about in debate.
Okay, cool. That actually tees up the next question and the next book. And you already mentioned this, Inside the Tornado. And you guys were insanely successful because you broke into this old dated vertical and they weren't really willing to spend money on technology. You went in like state by state. And in Jeffrey Moore's book, he talks about establishing that beachhead and the bowling pin strategy. Yep. For the people watching, I'd love for you to walk through, like, what is that bowling pin strategy and how did you use it? Because I think it's really important. You guys almost had a militaristic way in terms of how you broke into these markets state by state.
Very disciplined, for sure.
And I think it was super cool. I think it's an amazing lesson for everyone listening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the thing I coach on founders more than anything else. And that's why I'm like, if you haven't read the book, before we have the conversation, read the book so we at least could have the dialogue when I talk about bowling pin strategy. Because I think so many early stage companies get up because they want to talk about a big TAM. I don't give a about your TAM. I don't care. You're $500,000 in revenue and you want to talk about your $10 billion TAM. I want to talk about your $25 million target market. Your target's not your market. Great, talk about your TAM. And I think VCs do not help them. They're like, I want to hear about your TAM and how you're going to go win the entire TAM. The only way you're going to take on that $10 billion TAM is if you start with a $25 million target that turns into a $50 million, it turns into a $200 million. And the bowling pin strategy is like, figure out this ICP. I never know these fucking new terms. Ideal customer profile. I got my ICP. Fuck, I didn't know what a fucking seed capital and fucking, was. I just needed money, right? So, but whatever, call your ideal customer, like, make it really small. Like the one where when you find that customer, like when you get their case study, you show it to the next customer, it looks like them. They don't have to squint at that case study and go, not really what I want. Like, that customer, they look like they all look the same. They read the same trade journals and blogs. They go to the same trade shows. They hire from each other. And if it's that narrow, then you've got your target. And I've asked founders to come back with, hey, show me your target market. And they come back and I see a slide with a matrix. I'm like, I don't even need to read the words on. That's not a fucking target. It's one of those boxes. So the whole idea of the bowling pin strategy is you hit that head pin, and then from there you're like, all right, now that we've dummied that market and we can deliver our value proposition, predictable inputs every time, deliver on that with minimal friction. Now I'm ready to go to the next segment that looks most like that, and maybe one of my customers drags me into that, or to same customer, sell them more products to the same customer. And you just keep knocking down those pins until you go after your entire TAM. And too many, I think there's too many founders, they wake up and they're like, I've got this great tech, and they define their business by their tech, and everyone in the world is just going to discover my tech and they're all going to buy it, and I'm going to be a $1 billion business overnight. Like maybe, but I've never seen it, like ever. And the reality is, you're not defining your business by your technology. You define it by the market you're going to serve and the problem you're going to solve. And you got to start narrow and then go from there, and then knock over the next one, knock over the next one, knock over the next one. It's the slowest way to go fast. So our personal experience was when we were going after the market, we f***ed it up and said, oh, Canada, we nailed it. F***ing nailed in Canada, big deal, right? Let's go to America. And it's just one other country. Like, that, like New York, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, like they're country-size, like bigger than Canada. So we almost blew our brains out. Like, oh, we got a customer in Nevada, we got a customer in Rhode Island, we got one in California. Like, holy shit! Like we didn't have product market fit anywhere, and then we went like reread, crossing the chasm. It's like scratch the record. We're selling one state, Minnesota. That's it. Take everyone's number, but the answer is no. We're not ready for them. And so then we went and we figured out and absolutely dummied Minnesota, like got, wine and dined everybody who mattered, got the product that was perfect, figured every time we could get it in, nail the stuff. And then they're like, we got that nailed. We got a customer bringing us into Illinois, and they're bringing us into Indiana, and they're bringing us into Pennsylvania. And we got so disciplined at this that we would just go state by state until we had enough capacity to go 2 states at a time and then 3 states at a time. And what we came to learn was the first 10% market share in every state was like hand-to-hand combat, like crawling through a ditch with a knife in your teeth, taking them down one at a time, like as hard got. 10 to 25%, we were in the mix. We had competitors, but we were always in the mix. Didn't win them all. After 25% market share, like we won almost everything. Like there was always a competitor. After 50% market share, it was taking orders. It was just like, how many beds when you
keep the fax machine full of
it. Get in line. Keep the fax machine.
Yeah, I mean, we give Angela a lot of credit, but literally it was the product was selling itself. So,
but once we figured that out, we realized that why would you be street fighting in 10 states simultaneously? It didn't make any sense. Let's go get one on autopilot where we're just taking orders and moving on. And we got so disciplined at it that
we just say no.
We're not ready for you yet. One of the guys, he actually works for us today, was the head of sales for one of our competitors. He lived in Philadelphia. And he goes, you fuckers were so disciplined, you drove me nuts. He goes, I wouldn't even respond to RFPs from the state next door from Ohio. I go, why not? He goes, no fly zone. PointClickCare owned it. I could not win. There was no point. I just throw the RFP in the garbage. Could not win. And he goes, and that's before anyone in California knew who you were. He goes, so all I did was run around ahead of you trying to grab sales wherever I could before you showed up. He goes, the second you show up and declare it a state and put your flag in, he goes, I knew you're going to dummy it. Within 2 years, you would be the dominant player in that state. And it took us 8 years before we actually made it to California. But ultimately, we wound up with the dominant share in pretty much every state we went into by being disciplined and following the same model. Go in, get full product market fit in that state, which is not just the product, it's all the relationships around that, the accounting firms and everybody who might touch the product, the partner ecosystem, whole product in order to deliver on that. And it just took time.
Yeah, I remember living that. I think the discipline's real. And I think, it's interesting. You don't have to be a small company to recognize that it matters. We have products we're launching or different verticals we're launching today that, I see the go-to-market team doing exactly what Mike just talked about. I'm like, are you going to win 80% of the deals in that target market? Well, I think we're going to win 10. Then redo the plan.
And there's one other story that I thought was super cool. And it was this pivotal moment in the company because you guys were grinding, working your asses off. And then you have the 2 biggest nursing home chains in America come to you at the same time. Tell me what that felt like and why did you say no to the second one?
The first time Mike didn't actually know we said no, luckily. First one we took on, grind, working. I remember when they came in to see us, we were about 35 people at the time.
Yep.
We stayed up that night to put together a boardroom table and 12 chairs so we could accommodate their team coming in. We just didn't have a boardroom big enough at the time. And so, in that, deep in the trenches, working our asses off, I think they were in 16 states at the time. So it was just, every day was a grind. And so that was job number one. Another large customer came to the table, actually a little bit bigger, as I recall. They came with, 500-page RFP. And comes down to my office, like, hey, Dave, we got to fill this thing out. I'm like, I'm not fucking filling that out. He goes, no, dude, like, it's a big deal. I'm like, I know who they fucking are. we're not going to win that one. We have no, it was actually called, the name of the project was called a competitor's name. And it's like, how the fuck are we going to win that one? They've already named it a competitor's name. He goes, dude, you just got to put something in, you know, as the answer would do. I'm like, fuck that, no. He goes, all right. So he told them no. A year later, they came back and said, we'd really like you to fill this RFP. We like what you're doing. Like, well, still don't really want to do it.
No, would it take the entire company's resources for 2 months to respond to the RFP? It's just like, the answer is no, because we don't have enough resources to even respond to that. And by the way, nobody can do that. They go, yeah, we know. So we're really upset you didn't respond the first time.
Well, so they did it. And everyone, Ange and I are just, and I think, we could have used a little more Mike's IQ in there, but we said, if we go to Mike, we're going to do it anyway. So at least we can pretend. And we're like, listen, if you fill out the RFP for us, we'll look at it. You're like, okay. I'm like, this is awesome. And so they did. The lady who ran the RFP process actually works for us today. It's fucking amazing. She was a great kind of right hand on product to work with us. But yeah, that kind of, I remember going down there, and what I think won us the deal was we went through the demo, showed them what we could do. We were like, hey, what about that? It doesn't seem like it works in your products. Like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. We'll probably fix that. I don't even know if we'll do it, but yeah, that's fucked up. They're like, oh, interesting. Kind of look away, write things down. And after is like, you know what? The other company's a little farther ahead, but they're on-prem stuff. We don't like it. You guys look like you're going to move fast, respond quickly, deliver stuff. And literally from the time they had the RFP, 2 days later, we had a bunch of stuff in the product. They're like, how did you do that? It's like, well, you asked for it. I think it makes sense. We just did it. So they saw the momentum and recognized we were kind of the right one to bet on. And so, like I say, they buy kind of that honesty and buy the fabric and the value of the business. And I think we endear ourselves to a lot of people in the community, and we still super connected to it today.
And how did that feel or did you even recognize it at the time when you crossed that chasm and you're like, you finally broke through, you're finally getting momentum? Was it wind at your sails kind of thing? Like, let's go and like, let's turn up the gas. What did that feel like?
You know, I always thought it would feel like you flip switch overnight. It's like, it's going to explode tomorrow. It's going to explode tomorrow. It didn't explode tomorrow. And then one day I wake up and I go, Dave, we stood up 275 nursing homes last month. Like, there's no electronic health records company in the history of the planet that has done that in a year. And we did that last month. I think we might have nailed it. It's like, yeah, I think we did.
You know, we, on that note, we've done a lot of pretty interesting things, scrolling fast, slayed the dragon, whatever you want to call it. And I don't think we ever, the pom-poms weren't out until 2016. Like, it's like, yeah, no celebrating. Let's keep the pedal down. Mike was 20 years ahead in terms of what we wanted to accomplish. I don't know if he's mentioned this before, but I remember the time was probably 2003 or 4. Mike's up talking about our vision, what we're going to do. And, in the Jeffrey Moore language, we're going to be the gorilla of the industry. 8,000 buildings at the time. Like, I think we're like 500. I'm like, he's a fucking idiot. Is anybody else buying this shit? And then we're all looking around going, oh,
no, that's when the early employees had walked up to you after and said, is he serious? And you're like, just shut up. Go, just whatever. That's just Mike talk. Just go do your thing. And that same employee comes to me years later and he goes, do you remember this slide deck from like 2003? I'm like, yep, I remember it. Do you remember getting out the town hall meeting? I'm like, yep. He goes, did it not fucking unfold exactly the way he said it would? I go, yeah, I know.
A little longer.
I go, oh, yeah, I know. He's like, how did you know then? I go, I don't know. I just knew it. Maybe it's, we just made it manifest, but it unfolded exactly as I described it in 2003.
I mean, we got into, you talk inside the tornado, it was hand over fist. There was years where we didn't lose a single deal. And I'm not just because we were picky and didn't want that one because we didn't like them or whatever. Like, we literally didn't use the deal. And if we lost one, we would sit down with 5 of us and we'd lose our fucking mind. How did that happen? Get back in there and make that real. And so, I mean, if we lost a deal, it was, people talk about, oh, we're under budget on churn. I'm like, the do you mean under budget on churn? How's that even a comment? And we're like, never lose a deal. Never lose a deal. And it was probably a 5-year run of 95%. Like, we just never lost.
Now I'm going to go into building the product. I have a few questions for you, Dave.
Yeah.
Because you're the engineer who built this $1 billion product. And I want to ask you a few questions specifically about the SaaS apocalypse. Because just recently, $300 billion were wiped out because AI, Claude, ChatGPT can now replace potentially entire categories of software. You built one of the most defensible vertical SaaS companies in the world with everything that we just talked about. My question for you is, 10 years from now, does PointClickCare exist?
Yeah. I mean, it's clear to me what the path looks like. I think everything, what we thought we knew a year ago has changed. But perspective is, I think when, the rich set of digitization that any vertical SaaS company, specifically us, spent 30 years putting in place is the requirement and the layer required to be effective with AI. You just couldn't do it if they didn't digitize. So if they were still on, half implemented on fact, it wouldn't happen. And so they've done a lot of work and we've helped them get there. This is the time to thrive and the time to add value. And so it's zero cost development. That's not actually true, but let's assume it is over time. We're no different than anybody else building, but we're in the driver's seat because invariably to get the value out of AI, you have to be closest to that data. And as soon as you have overlay or other systems over here, you're starting to build pockets of data that don't work together and don't kind of drive the ultimate kind of outcome you're looking for in terms of informing care along that continuum, or at least that journey they have with you. And so you're I think it's forcing people over time, I believe, to go back to kind of system of record if they don't f it up, which I expect we won't f it up. Move fast with the key workflows that matter, deliver the things that evolve us from kind of this CRUD, create, read, update, delete, into this AI kind of autonomous powered engine that allows them to do their clinical work. Because I think a clinician's job is AI proof for a while. I think it's a very challenging thing to replace with somebody who's almost good. It's okay to kill 99% of the people. We'll get it right eventually, not really going to happen. So I do think it's fairly defensible. So we're still going to have a lot of humans and clinicians in the loop. And I think with that system record and the intelligence we have, I think it's just building on top of that infrastructure that drives all of the things we see in front of us that I feel are going to superpower our customers in a way that, and I say this all the time, I think the next years will deliver more value, real meaningful value on revenue, compliance, litigation, costs to our customers than we have in the last 25 years.
So if someone were to come in this room and say SaaS is dead, how would you respond to that?
SaaS is the foundation.
Okay.
It's not the future, but it's the foundation.
And the dominant narrative right now that you see like in places like X is that white collar work, doctors, lawyers, accountants, every knowledge worker basically is at threat. But you've said that the clinician is AI proof. What makes the clinician AI proof when everyone is saying that white collar work is done?
I think the administrative jobs probably all go away, or a significant portion of those. And I think, do people love those jobs? Not really. We call that the administrative burden that pushes people out of healthcare. I think that's true for clinicians as well. What's the one looming crisis we have in healthcare? Not enough clinicians. In any country in the world, it's the same problem. And if we can find a way to augment and drive better efficiency into that part of our business through AI, you're still gonna, until policy changes and meaningful regulatory changes happen, we're still gonna need a clinician in the loop. And so I feel like for the foreseeable future, you're giving out meds and trusting who and what. There's a lot of things that happen that, it's not just about what's what's in the system, right? And these are still people, and somebody has to make a judgment call. And I think informing them to be more effective in their work, I think will definitely happen. Will create more efficiencies. But I feel like anybody's in an IC job today is probably fairly well protected. It's the middle layer that goes away first.
Yeah. Okay. And shifting over to what's called like the silver tsunami, the first baby boomers just turned 80. By 2030, 73 million Americans will be over 65 years old. A nursing home bed costs $130K a year, and there's just not enough nurses to help people. How bad does this get, and how does technology actually solve it, or is it too late?
Well, I think technology is a huge piece of the problem. I think the ability, especially with the agentic AI, there is so much administrative burden that's put on a caregiver today that can go away. And you can also, so if you get a clinician and they might spend 3 hours of their shift doing actual care delivery, the rest of it documentation administrative, that can go away. So that same clinician could serve 2 or 3 times as many people once you get rid of some of the administrative burden. I think the other thing is you can also get people work at a higher level of their license. If you have the critical decision-making being done by an agent, right? So take, for example, like if I've got you, I'm a doctor, I'm an RN, and you're certified nursing assistant. If I'm there watching you change a wound or do some treatment, a trach, and I'm watching and observing the whole way, then you could do it even though you're not licensed to do it. Well, what if a machine was able to observe you and guide you through it? Then you get people that have 6 months to a year of education versus 6 years of education where they can get them into the workforce. So I think we're going to need more people more people that are going to need to get into the workforce to deal with that silver tsunami. But I think the agentic AI is going to have a huge piece in making all of them far more effective in getting that work done. And I think the ability to keep people at the lowest levels of care before they escalate, I think agentic AI is going to have a huge impact. So if you could stay at home longer, great. Even if it's 3 months, we get everybody 3 months longer before they maybe get home care services. 3 months longer that before they move into institutional care. Maybe that's a senior living community. 3 months longer there before they have to go to a skilled nursing community. 3 months longer there before they. So if you can defer the care and getting people at the lowest level of care, the one that is most like a hospitality environment before they get into a medical model, that will have an enormous impact on the cost of the system.
So are you optimistic in terms of how AI is going to impact
Huge.
healthcare?
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, I would use, there's a couple of, I would use a specific example that I think is and I'll focus on the clinical side versus administrative, but I think what the point is, the system has to find a way to create capacity. Yeah. Now, we created a ton of capacity through COVID, unfortunately, a lot of lives lost, but also during that time, there was a compression on length of stay. And so when you do those two things, you create capacity in the system. And so it will survive for a while, but the population will hit. And so what are we going to do differently? And I think, Mike, moving folks to the lowest cost setting faster is a clear piece. Having things that don't have a negative outcome, so they don't have to return to hospital and the costly event, like all of that will reduce the tax on the system. One of the things I was thinking about AI, as you think about documenting, there's a lot of information that goes into a chart. It's not often leveraged in the right way to get the right person to the right, at the right point in time to the right patient and so forth, doing the right thing. And so that's one aspect of it. The other one is, as you document that, let's say a clinician documented, we just found, Mike on the floor, which we actually do quite often. Well, guess what happened to Mike? Mike actually had a fall. Oh, interesting. Well, if right at that point in time, you can document and go, holy shit, we got to put bed rails up, got to contact a physician, the family, got to start an incident report, got to do all of these things, what happens? So that's AI bound. Today, that's offshore resources scanning the chart, physically doing this as people, looking for all of these gaps in documentation that do largely two things. One, they get litigated against because the only thing that matters is what got documented. And you're talking millions of dollars a month in litigation. PE firms funding these folks to go litigate against. But the other part is we drive way better quality care to the patients that actually get the right quality of service they deserve. And so all of a sudden we do kill two birds with one stone. We have great quality outcomes, reduce costs, and we mitigate litigation that, quite frankly, is the worst thing that happens in healthcare.
Okay, I want to go back to the personal side before we wrap things up today. I'm going to say a name, Mike, and I want you to tell me what happened. Frank Slootman.
Yeah. So I was not one of those founders that's over-indexed on fundraising. And I feel like every founder I meet today, all they want to talk about is my pre-seed, my seed, and stuff. Like, they introduce themselves by the, hey, I'm like, so what do you do? And they're like, I'm a Series B. I'm like, that tells me nothing about, like, where do you add value to the world? I'm a Series B company. That means f*** all to me. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. I never did. So when we went out to raise money initially, that we could only get friends and family money. I didn't know I was looking for a seed round or Series A or what the f*** I was looking for. I just knew I needed money. That's all I knew. But there was no money, so we bootstrapped it forever. And then this goes back to like 2009. We were well on our way. We were in the tens of millions of revenue anyhow. And I hired my first CFO, which was a guy who was an actual CFO, not a bookkeeper that we called CFO, who's like an actual CFO. He said things like, you're capitally constraining the company. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, the capitally constraining the company. Yeah, you're capitally, and I'm like, yeah.
What does that mean? Like, actually explain that, because I don't know what it means.
It's like, you need to go raise money because you could grow faster. You're strangling the company because you refuse to raise money. And then a few other people like, hey, you could be growing faster. And I remember going to this conference. Frank Slootman was speaking, and he's, a legendary CEO. And there was a bunch of SaaS CEOs. He goes, how many of you have built your company to the point where you're break even? I proudly throw up my hand. I'm like, right here. And he goes, all right, so let me get this straight. You're like an 80+% gross margin business. Net revenue retention is probably 100+%. And you could grow faster, but you choose not to because you're worried about an artificial line in the sand called profitability. I'm like, oh, and he goes, you're f***ing being irresponsible. I'm like, holy shit. And I thought about it. I'm like, every customer we have, we basically keep forever. We get to sell them more every year, and we could be growing faster. But my constraint is that I've decided that we want to be profitable. And there was no reason, like we keep these customers forever. The gross margin is high. If we just went and raised more money, we could be growing way faster. And I went, holy. And I thought about, what was David saying about the capitally constraining? I'm like, I think that's what he was talking about. And then I thought about how we did a budget cycle. I'm like, Dave, what do you want next year? He goes, I want to buy a cottage and a wakeboard. I go, me too. What do you think that costs to finance? And then we'd start there and back at the budget from there. We were absolutely capitally constraining the company. So it was that Frank Slootman wake-up moment that I realized I was being irresponsible. I thought I was being responsible by reinvesting just to the point of break even. I was actually being irresponsible. We could have grown faster. We chose not to. And that's when we hit that fork in the road. It's like, do we want to build something, a category killing, like generational business, or do we want to be a lifestyle company? And we said, yeah, let's build a category leader. Let's go see what this is made of. Go raise some money and do it.
And you flip the switch. It's like, let's go.
We turn the innovation bus on, because everything we did, we'd spend $1 million building it, and we get, the next year it'd be 15 million in revenue. It's like, build 40 more of those. And we, over 10 years, I think we built 48 new wallet products or something stupid like that. And every one of them was just gone.
Is the lesson, because you guys bring you back to crossing the chasm and like winning that market in the bowling pin strategy, is it the idea of getting that product market first and then getting outside capital and throwing the gas on the fire, or is it the inverse?
I think, as I said, if we had raised money earlier, we could have captured market share faster.
Yeah.
And we just chose not to, because, I thought we were being responsible, reinvesting the point of break even. And the reality is we could have done that faster. So we could have gone down both paths in the bowling pin strategy. We could have grabbed more market share and solved more problems for same customer simultaneously, but we were constraining ourselves with the amount we were prepared to invest to do that.
Two things we unlocked. One was product innovation. We could go faster. But the other thing that was, I remember to this day, I remember our, the sage Harry would ask Angelo, our sales guys, what could you do if we just doubled the sales team? He goes, well, and he kind of didn't have a great answer. Like, maybe I could like double it. And he's like, well, what if you tripled it? Well, maybe I could triple it. What if you quadruple it? I don't think I could. Okay, well then start with double. It's like, holy shit, right? And so it actually had a meaningful impact on like, go invest in salespeople and go get better coverage and do it. You have the product to go make it happen. So yeah, there's a handful of things that resonated. The other one from Mark's dad, we were sitting in a strategy meeting in Napa. We were talking about strategy, growth, and what we might do or not do. I remember he just stood up from his chair. He goes, hey, guys, by the way, growth is a choice. We're like, what? You just need to do what you need to do. Like, growth is a choice. You guys need to decide to make the investments and grow the shit of this company. But don't sit here talking about all the stuff you can or can't do. You can decide. You just got to make it happen. That hit pretty hard.
Growth is a choice, yeah.
Now, Dave, one question for you. Mike has stepped out of the CEO chair, and you're still in it every day. What's the hardest thing you've had to carry since becoming the CEO that you haven't told your brother about?
Everyone still thinks I'm Mike. Like, oh, we've met before.
It's a full foot shorter.
No, I think, and I probably have mentioned this to Mike. I certainly didn't appreciate him at the time. And maybe the years have worn on and recognized that, holy he did do a hell of a job. The one thing that he joked about earlier that quite frankly is a huge piece of advice that I struggled to give myself, that he did so much better, largely because he wasn't capable of doing things, right? Was don't worry about the how. That's somebody else's fucking problem. You're here to deliver the vision. So that's been a huge one, hard to kind of grow into. And just the weight that he carried for 25 years was, I always thought, if I look around, I see a couch, I see Mike lying on it, and I'm like, what the f*** he's sleeping in? I want that job. And I'd go, Mike, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, oh, the most underrated job of a CEO, I'm thinking. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. And we're grinding away out there, and he's like, we fuck. Anyways, and he's not wrong. And so the thing that I recognize after thinking, for anybody out there who thinks CEOs don't do shit, they're actually not wrong. But what I carry very heavily is a responsibility to the board, to Mike as a shareholder, to anybody who's invested in and believes in us, that it is a heavy weight because it's hard. And he clearly tricked me the into it. He's like, yeah, you're gonna love it. I'm like, you. So yeah, I think it's a fun job. You get to do it. You get to be king. But there's a lot of that comes with it that make this job way. Cholesterol goes up. You gain a bit of weight. You kind of get old really fast. You hate your family. No, I love my family. I'm kidding. But it's everybody wants that job. But I tell you, I had a much better appreciation being in the job now for what Mike did for us and how he led us and how he drove culture and vision at the same time. And now realize that, gosh, I was a cog in the wheel, kind of probably slowing him down. But that's what brothers do.
Now, I want to close on Canada and family. You mentioned family. And you two are proof that the opposite of what's really popular in terms of the story right now is actually possible. That you could build a $1 billion company from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. So my question for you both is, what does Canada need to believe about itself that it doesn't right now?
That's a very good question. What does Canada need to believe? I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but I do think we need a fundamental reset with Canadians. I mean, the problem is not our government. You get the governments you deserve. I do think there's a problem. Maybe it's the tall poppy syndrome. I do think we fundamentally need to have Canadians start waking up and celebrating that 96% of our revenue happens to be in the US, but we're headquartered here. It would be so easy because we don't have physical plant. Most of our customers are south of the border.
Half our employees are there.
We could change our tax jurisdiction in a heartbeat. We choose to stay here. And the fact that we choose to do that and yet we don't get celebrated, we keep pretty quiet about our success. I mean, we're finally known in the tech community, but we're pretty quiet about it because we know we're not going to be celebrated. And let's celebrate these great stories. Let's celebrate phenomenal success in Canada. And so I think the Canadian psyche has to change. And it's not just the government, the Canadian psyche has to change.
And that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole thing with the True North Pod, is telling these stories to inspire that next generation, or even the people that are building right now, to stay here and build here. And I think they need that wake-up call. And that's a part of why we're telling these stories, to people to realize, like, hey, you could actually, you could do it.
Yeah.
I think it's the belief for sure. You go and if you look for that recipe for success and the only thing around you are, smaller companies, to aspire to those stories that have happened. And there's a handful of us now, and there'll be more. And I think there's more today than there was when we started. We are a feeder system to those that are growing businesses that, like, gosh, there's going to be a glass ceiling for some people in my company. There's only one CEO. There's lots of companies that use our talent. They'll start to move elsewhere and kind of grow. And as we can support some of the growth here. But I think fundamentally it's the fact that just believe we have great talent. We have great people. You don't have to be the smartest person on the planet to build a company. We're kind of case in point, like very super average dudes. I was okay in university. Mike was super. It wasn't about that. It's about kind of grit and resilience and kind of keep going and believing in yourself and having a support system around you. And you can do great things. You don't have to be in the US. You can do that here. And there's a lot of talent around. Mike's given a shitload of time to tech entrepreneurs that will listen to him. And if they have an ego that's small enough that can actually listen and be curious, there's so many things that we can share with each other. And I think that last part is clear. The more we can learn from each other, the more we can help each other. So
I think you have to believe that if we could get the density problem solved, which is we get 150 tech companies over 100 million and we get to 24 over $1 billion, then the capital and the talent, the know-how will recycle in this country. We just need to get enough of them there. So hang with us, get a few more across. Because I've seen where all of our execs who have exited, what do? They went to go the next 50 going on $150 million company to lead some role there, or they went and sat on a board there, or they've invested in those companies. And so we just didn't we were 30 million in revenue when we had to do, sell to California, to Boston, everywhere in between, search for any C-level officer. Now you got a fighting chance of finding one in Canada. If you're under 100 million, maybe you got a fighting chance. We never had a chance then. But you get over 100 million, and the reality is you're not going to find, the capital or the talent or the know-how in Canada. Likely you have to do a North America-wide search. But if we can get enough of them across the 100 million mark and enough of them across the billion mark, I am absolutely convinced that we will have a sustainable tech ecosystem in this country that will punch way above its weight internationally.
Now, it's a good setup for the next question because you guys both invested in the True North Fund.
We did.
Tell me about how you're supporting other founders through C100.
I mean, there's a bunch of, let's call them successful people, execs that have, retired, moved on from PointClickCare, but they were here during sort of the critical days of PointClickCare. And I've seen what they're doing now. They're advising on boards and they're investing in, Canadian tech companies. So there's a group of us that look at a lot of early stage companies and sometimes scale up stage companies and look at them together. And it's sort of, if it's a Canadian story and we think we can be helpful, we'll invest. And so they got a go-to-market issue. They'll talk to Angela. They've got just a general, how do we scale this business? They'll talk to me. And so we connect them with, former CFOs, former chief people officers, former heads of sales, former chief customer officers.
Okay, cool. And I want to talk about your work with C100 and what you're doing there.
Yeah. So C100, we've, it's transformed a lot over the last, 14 years. But we're really focused on that, we want to create a model where we have that sustainable tech ecosystem in Canada. But the unique distinction between that and, and what other organizations might do is that it was born out of Silicon Valley. Now, too often we get that pegged with, you're just trying to get companies to leave Canada and go to the Valley. That's the exact opposite is true. How do we leverage all of the great Canadians that are in the Valley, whether they're, in venture or private equity, or they're working at Salesforce.com or big tech there, take advantage of those Canadians to help grow a sustainable Canadian tech ecosystem. So really our mandate is let's get 150 companies over 100 million in revenue and 24 of them over $1 billion in revenue as fast as we can, so we can create that tech ecosystem. We do it through, doing that unnatural thing. Like in the Valley, you've got everybody, like in a condensed area. In Canada, you've got great companies, from, Newfoundland to Vancouver and everywhere in between. And even they talk about the Toronto-Waterloo corridor. It's Toronto-Waterloo. I mean, we used to be in Mississauga. It's a barbell, and we were on the bar. So we have to do some non-natural things. C100 pulls together all of these great Canadians together that are dispersed over 5,000 miles, and then run a couple of accelerator programs to really connect these great Canadians in the Valley with the great Canadians in Canada to try and give an advantage to these great early stage companies to really create category leaders, global category leaders, and headquarter in Canada.
I want to understand each of you as younger dudes, because there's something special about that dynamic between both of you that I want to tell this story. And I've met with your team, I met with your friends, I met with colleagues and family, and I've chatted with you both. And I think there's something special about your partnership where, Mike, you were the sales guy and you were a bit of a dreamer when you were younger. And Dave, you're the builder and the engineer, the technical brains behind this thing. So I want to start with you, Mike, first. Take me back. You're selling Cutco knives, driveway ceiling, the restless ADHD energy, and I have this photo for you here, for these photos. Tell me your story and the hustle before PointClickCare.
Teenage punk rocker. Yeah, you gotta love that. So I was never a good academic, never great in school. I mean, I did, what would you call it? Minimum viable effort to get through high school, minimum viable effort to get into university, minimum viable effort to get through. That's just not the way I learned. I mean, it was fun. I really enjoyed my 4 years in university. I could have spent 10 years there, but it wasn't the way I learned. It was, look at my GPA. It was dog. But I'm
not actually sure how you graduated. We should probably fact check that.
I mean, shockingly, I was able to get a double major. But anyhow, I never put the effort into it. And the challenge was put in the minimum viable effort in order to get through the course and get the bare minimum so I could continue along to the next year. But I knew, and through all the jobs, and Dave and I shared a lot of those jobs, like, washing dishes, working on a line to cook, like even early days delivering newspapers, working in the supermarket and the vegetable, with the vegetables and all that, like just every job, and then working in factories where you just watch machines go and shoveling cement, like every job you can imagine. So I knew that when I got close to the end of school, it was go time. I'm like, all right, like I've been around for a long time. It's time to go do something. And I always knew I was going to create something enormous. I didn't know what, I didn't know industry. I'm gonna get into business, and I'm gonna create something that, phenomenal and durable. And but it was during university where I got that job selling knives. I'm like, actually, I'm pretty good at persuading people, and I got this big dream, and like maybe that's my thing. So, I got out of school, first job. I mean, I didn't even have a resume. I'm like, all right, but I got to go get a job. So what I do, get a full commission sales job selling software. And turns out I was pretty good at it, right? I worked with my other brother, Jeff, at this small company in Toronto. Turns out I was good at it. And after a year and a half of that, I'm like, you know what? It's time to do my own thing. And that was actually the genesis. At the time, it was called Westcom Solutions. Started a one-man company, which is still the incorporation documents of the company today, back in 95. And I went, all right, let's burn my bridges behind me. I'm highly unemployable, don't even have a resume. I better make this thing work, and then never look back.
Okay, amazing. And then Dave, you take it next. Before PointClickCare existed and Westcom, you were already the IT guy, and you were fixing systems in nursing homes that your mom worked in. Take me inside that, and what did you see that was fucked up? And you're like, okay, this needs to get fixed.
Well, yeah, like Mike, a little bit different. I actually went and decided to take the real job route. That's he has a little more risk profile than I did, obviously, and you can tell the differences between us a little bit. But for me, it was, gosh, my mother was working in the space. In fact, back in the 90s, you kind of had to look to somebody else to help you get employed. It wasn't as easy as it had been. I think it's getting tougher again. And so, as I think of graduating, having these, computer science capabilities, and I want to build video games as my priority. And, second best thing is building long-term care software, right? But I'll get back to that in a minute. She gave me an opportunity to work as an IT guy in basically a nursing home chain. It's like, sounds pretty good. I got to work on a residence floor. I got a residence room for all my shit. I have my own bathroom, better than the envy of all my buddies and brothers. And it's like, holy shit. And no, the resident wasn't in there, by the way, just to be clear. But I was on a floor with residents, and I'd have tea and coffee, and I would see what they were using. The interesting part where Mike and I collided a bit was he was selling the software I was using. So I'm setting up his garbage, and I'm seeing it in action. I'm like, this is dog shit. And it's like chicken scratch everywhere, and clinicians can't use it. And I'm witnessing this firsthand and watching the performance of the business suffer as a result of that. And so that was kind of the impetus for me to say, gosh, we could change some things. But that's where I got my start. And I would look back to those as really important formative years to get close to a problem you feel like you want to solve. And that's kind of where my mind went versus kind of the visionary side of, growing something differently, or I'm just going to go take that risk and run it, whatever it is.
Okay, cool. Now, your dad was a government economist, born in Nazi Germany in 1942, came to Canada at 13, and Mike, after Western, you rode the 7:45 a.m. GO train with him
Yep.
every morning. What did you actually learn from your dad that you didn't learn in school?
Everything. I feel like I got my MBA on the GO train on the way into Toronto. I would talk about a situation I was dealing with, like, hey, this is sort of the deal. And I would give him, so let's say it's a puzzle. I would give him like 3 pieces of this 1,000-piece puzzle. I wouldn't even give him a corner piece. And immediately he'd just go, oh yeah, here's the picture. Like, you got a brook and a stream and there's 2, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I gave you almost nothing and you have so much experience and pattern recognition. Here's how you should think about it. Here's how you should strategize. And he's always a big thinker, right? So he could always sort of see things with minimal information. He could understand exactly what's going on situationally with something, and always had incredible strategic advice for me. And after months and months and months of that, and just getting coached and coached and coached and coached, I feel like I got my my MBA. Through that, and and being in front of real customers, dealing with real problems, trying to get out there and just figure out the world. I learned more in my first 6 months of selling out of school that I did in the 4 years in school, and my first year of starting my own business, like infinitely more than I learned in 4 years of school.
Now, last few questions here. Want to wrap it up with family. And your mom, Sheila, she worked in the nursing homes. She's the whole reason why you grew up around the industry. And I have this picture for you. So, like, my question for you, because I've heard a lot of stories about your parents and your step parents, how important were they to the success of the business? And what do you think of and how do you feel when you look at that picture today? What goes through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think, supportive all along the way. I think when you're in university, you don't wake up going, we're going to build awesome tech for nursing homes. I'm like, it's not, not the thing you're looking to do. Is only because, she happened to work in that industry, brought me in. At one point, I think all of the brothers had wound up working in around that space, and over time developed a passion for it, right? And then we wouldn't have even have had a clue that the industry even existed or where there was an opportunity had it not been for my mother. And then when she came in to join us, part through the journey, largely because her consultant bills were too expensive, she was transformational. Like the hardest working person I know is my mother. Like when we talked about the hours that we would put in, like she was doing the same thing, like working around the clock, grinding it out. There's no way we could have pulled it off without her. And then the guidance I had from my dad on just, one of the brightest strategic thinkers I've ever met in my life. In the absence of having him as a sounding board on speed dial all the time, it's unlikely we would be as successful as we are today.
Yeah, I'll pick up from there because I agree with both of those things. I do think we both gleaned some different things from our parents along the way. But, the one thing that I think still stands the test of time with us is our values that are still the staples of our business and how we treat each other. And how I tell my leadership team all the time, if you think as a leader you're more important than somebody answering a call, then you need to find another job. You're here to do everything you can to support that person because, quite frankly, they're doing the hard work. And so it's just the concept of valuing everyone and knowing you can learn from everybody and not putting yourself in this. We didn't sit in an ivory tower. We sat in cubes. We were available. We were connected. We were, you wouldn't know us unless you saw our picture, you wouldn't have any idea who we were. In fact, I was in a town hall the other day and Mike actually had a session. And I remember he was in an office, but he didn't book it. So somebody came in. It's like, hey, you're in my office. Can you get out? He's like, he was literally on the town hall in a cameo talking with me. He's like, oh, I'm really sorry. And everyone's like, what's going on here? And he's fumbling around, getting to a new room. He's like, yeah, sorry, I didn't book the room. They're like, okay, that's weird. But I think, so yes, parents were huge, kind of got us our start, got us connected. A lot of kind of early learnings with Mike. And obviously mom, Sheila, was huge in the business. And, it's a funny story before I add one more thing. I remember being around one of our large customers probably in 2010. They had come back to Mississauga to, do an update meeting, yearly review, whatever. And I remember this is after mother retired. So I'm like, I'm so sorry to tell you, my mom's not with us anymore. And they're all like, oh my God, we're so sorry. And I'm like, oh, no, she just retired. It's like, you bastard. She was awesome, great support with the family, great values that still stand with us today as a business and how we think about and treat people and why we care about winning, but Mike calls it kind of winning with humility. But I would point to the brothers. We have a really strong bond together that has always been supportive. We've always wanted to win, and that competitive nature definitely comes out. Having that connection, having that support as well as kind of family in there has never mind kind of, the partners in crime along the way that have helped keep our egos in check too. So
now, Mike, I want to give this one to you. When you look at these photos, you sacrificed a huge chunk of your life building this company. Now you live part of the year in Turks and Caicos with family and friends. Looking back, was it worth it? And would you do every year of that grind again?
Yeah, easy to say now. Yeah, I would do it all over again. It was a lot of fun, but I would never, ever want to do startup again. I have romantic memories, but it is just so hard. It for sure took years off my life. And you have to recognize that if you're going to build something that you think is of durable value, that it is a sacrifice. I did not invest in friendships. I did not invest in world travel. There's people half my age that have seen more of the world than me. I was doing one thing and one thing only, maniacal about building a category leading business. Do I feel like I missed a lot? For sure. But work-life balance, I feel like I have the balance now. I'm now literally catching up on the stuff that I missed in my 20s and 30s and 40s. I'm doing all the things that I should have done back then, except for like binge watching Netflix, right? I mean, it's like traveling the world, going and getting all these experiences. And do I feel like I missed out on something? I sacrificed all of that to build what I did today. And I feel like I'm catching up for it now. Do I have regrets about doing it? No. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to catch up that stuff. I don't have any regrets. I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. And I don't think I would have had the option. I don't think I could have mixed in the stuff I'm doing now with trying to build, the company that we've built today.
Okay. And then Dave, I have one last one for you, actually. And that's you and your grandson. How have your priorities changed? And were the sacrifices worth it?
Listen, we live a hell of a lifestyle today, but we've always lived a good lifestyle. I've never, I think the going back now and drinking like $10 bottles of wine would kill me for sure. If we even drank wine, because I had to work 24 hours a day. But people, they talk about the pursuit of happiness. I would agree with that. They were the funnest times of my life. I couldn't wait to get out of bed and code more and find out somebody to do it better than me. And so today, with the energy I have, could I do it again? No chance. There is no chance. I think you can do it once. It's kind of like having kids. You get through that stage of having kids, try to do it again. Like, it takes a lot of energy. You got to be super committed. And then, I look at my grandson, who's a year old now, and it has changed perspective a little bit, but it's kind of that, I go back to my kids were that old. Actually, I go back to my son, who's now 30, was the first baby our first salesman, Angelo, ever held when my wife brought him into the office. And so it's kind of come full circle. I look at that and I go, gosh, all of my kids now work in the business. It's phenomenal. I couldn't be more proud of that. They're individual contributors, not treated differently. I'm sure the Wessinger name probably helps them a little bit, but they don't leverage that. I think they should. But it kind of, I'm proud of what we accomplished together. I would do again with Mike any day of the week, except for the fact that we're, in our 50s now, and it would be really hard to go back and grind again. So, no regrets whatsoever. And gosh, it's taken a few years off our life for sure. I think we had hair when we started. It wasn't long after we are where we are. But a lot of friendships along the way in the business. A lot of good memories, and it's hard work is okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
And last question, what's your message for Canadians and Canadian founders building right now?
I've heard Mike talk about it, and you can say it again, but stop chasing rounds, grow a business, focus on the customer, get shit right. Don't copy somebody else's stuff. Get some courage, like go after it, take some risks. That's, calculated risks, but also do the learnings, read the books, connect with people like Mike. There's lots of folks around the True North Fund and their team, and there's other VCs around as well that are super helpful. So be courageous, learn, be curious, and go after it.
Mike?
Yeah, I think just build something awesome. There's a ton of mediocre shit out there.
Just do that.
No, it's hard work. And anybody who tells you that it's not hard work they're full of shit. Like, it is hard work. And if you want to build something that's not mediocre, no, it's going to be hard work. And so my message to you is, like, build something awesome, don't build something average, and it's going to be hard, but do it. Just do it. Don't
outsource the hard work. Like, that's another thing is people feel like, oh, I got to hire a CTO, I got to hire this. I'm like, you don't have money for that. Do the job yourself. Like, stop. Don't go after more funding so you can do that. Like, go and create some constraints in your business so you have to be more resilient, right? And so I go back to one of the things that I think, if people ask me why we were successful, and I think there's a lot of things you could come up with, but I really think for us, we got lucky. One thing is there's definitely luck in it. And if you, it's hard to think of a business that didn't have a little bit of luck. The second thing would be grit. But it's like, just keep showing up, like, just have that resilience and just keep showing up. And for us, that resonated super well, and we created a bit of a reputation, and that last part being that reputation and that brand recognition, that loyalty, and that they know we're going to do the right thing. And so that gets paid back dividends.
Okay, awesome. Dave, Mike, thank you for being on the True North Pod, and thank you for letting me tell your story. It's been awesome.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.